Campus may be seated. Thank you. Welcome, brothers and sisters, on this blustery Thursday, January 28th of 2021 at 11 o'clock to the Oxford Ward Chapel. My name is Bishop Lincoln Mumford, and I've been asked by the family to conduct this funeral service. We meet and gather today in loving memory of D. Marcel Beckstead. He was born on May 25th, 1934 in West Jordan, Utah. He passed away on January 23rd, 2021 in Clifton, Idaho, in his home. These proceedings will be recorded for all to see, and we're grateful for the services that the Webb Funeral Home has provided for that. Our pallbearers are the grandsons Mitch Beckstead, Glen Beckstead, Corby Beckstead, Tucker Beckstead, Tyson Doney, Racken Doney, Zachary Cox, Kate Cox, Jack Moser, Wyatt Beckstead, Austin Bartholomew, and Cash Bartholomew. Our honorary pallbearers are the sons Robert Beckstead, Dee Beckstead, Shorty Beckstead, Wayne Beckstead, and sons-in-law Lamont Doney, Clark Cox, Stacy Moser, David Bartholomew, grandsons Ryan Beckstead and Tate Bartholomew. Grandchildren who are currently serving church missions and serving in the military include Sister Riley Beckstead, Elder Ryan Beckstead, Elder Tate Bartholomew, and Private Second Class Drake Lewis. For our service today, the family prayer has been offered by D. Beckstead, a son. Prelude and postlude by Sister Lisa Sears. We will start with a musical number from Tylee Young and Charlie Turner, who are great-granddaughters. They will provide us a medley, Give Said the Little Stream, and Families Can Be Together Forever. Lisa Sears as accompanist. The invocation will be given by Robert Beckstead, his son. Marcel's life sketch will be provided by Susan Doney, Dana Cox, Dion Moser, and Marla Bartholomew, all daughters. Then we will have a series of speakers. Mitch Beckstead, Jenny Louder, Tori Turner, Tyson Doney, Zach Cox, Kenzie Moser, Wyatt Beckstead, Austin Bartholomew. One grandchild from each of the 8 children. Then we'll have a musical number from Sister Roxanne Mueller, Consider the Lilies, Lisa Sears as the accompanist. And then we'll have a speaker by Bishop Wayne Smart. We'll go to that point. Sister Tylee and Charlie.
Give said the little stream. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for the many blessings you give to us. We're thankful this day for the opportunity we have to come to these services to mourn the passing and yet celebrate the life of a very faithful servant, Marcel Beckstead, our Father. We ask you, Father, that you will comfort us this day, that we may be able to enjoy one another's company and remember how he was in our lives, his honesty, his love he showed for us, the happiness that he made us feel when we were around him. We ask a blessing upon our mother, his eternal companion, that she may be comforted this day and also throughout the days to come, because bless her that she will know that she has family and friends that love her and appreciate her. We're grateful also at this time for all those who have came to share this day with us, family and friends from near and far. We ask a special blessing at this time upon those who will participate in these services, the speakers, the musical numbers, that their hearts and minds may be open, that they may be able to say the things that they have planned to say, and that they will feel good about the things that they will be talking to us this day. We're grateful once again for all that thou does for us. We're grateful for the Spirit that's here today. These things we pray for humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I just want to explain that beautiful song that the girls sang, but it's going to make me cry. I should make my sister sing and explain it. Give Said a Little Stream was my dad's favorite primary song, and probably because he tried so hard to live by the principles that it taught. And while he was having a hard time those last few days, we would be able to sing that song to him, and it would help calm him down and give him comfort. So thank you, girls. That was just beautiful. Dad was born on May 25th, 1934, in West Jordan, Utah, in the old Beckstead Pioneer home where his family lived at the time. He was the fifth of 6 children born to Glen and Leona Beckstead. Dad had 2 older sisters, Rita and Lucille, twin brothers, Billy and Bobby, and a little sister, Sally, who's here with us today. Marcel is a different name, so where did that name come from? Well, I'm going to tell you. Grandpa Glen was in World War I, serving in France. His unit took care of a little orphan boy whose name was Marcel. Grandpa Glen grew to love him and smuggled him on the ship to bring him home. When they got to the port in America, the authorities found Marcel and would not let Grandpa Glen keep him. One of the officers then took Marcel to California, but because of this little French boy, Grandpa and Grandma named their 3rd son Marcel.
Dad loved and admired his mother and father. They taught by example to work hard and be honest. He was a hard worker and he loved to work hard. He helped his father thin and top beets. This was a long, hot, uncomfortable job. He and his brothers and sisters had to crawl on hands and knees with a short-handled hoe and weed and thin the row of beets of about 20 acres. He said, "You would think that I would not like raising beets, but I liked it, especially looking back. I guess I was just kind of weird. We all know that Grandpa was kind of weird, isn't he? Dad was such a good worker that the neighbors would come and ask Grandpa Glen if they could take Marcel to help with chores on their farms. He enjoyed all types of farm work, including cutting hay with an old horse-drawn mower and milking cows, starting at the age of 7. Bronco, do you milk cows? He loved his horse Ginger. With the help of a good neighbor, he bought and finished training her. Dad said Ginger was the best horse he ever had. And I remember Ginger. So he had him for a long time. When he would go out to the field, all he would have to do was whistle, and she would come right up to him. He spent a lot of time with Ginger. Because there was always a lot of work to be done on his father's farm, he chose only to participate in high school track. And Grandpa loved sports. All you boys, his great-grandchildren, granddaughters, grandsons, know how much Grandpa loved sports. He was always there. Even if you didn't see him, he was at the end of the football field in his car watching you boys play. He always would ask me recently how Blaze did. I really did not have time to play football or basketball. I was needed at home to work. I did not mind because I loved to work. I did go out for track and I ran the mile and I was good at it. I learned how to run long distance because I lived a mile away from home and I'd have to run to school so I wouldn't be late. Dad graduated from Jordan High School and went on to further his education at Utah State Agricultural College, which is now Utah State University, graduating in 1956.
Dad and Mom were married on June 28, 1955, in the Salt Lake City Temple. He tells of a sweet story of how he first met or saw Mom. He says, I first saw her, and it was love at first sight, at least for me. My dad, Glen, was a member of the American Legion, and I was playing taps at a cemetery on Memorial Day. The school band was involved in the program. They came marching in, and they had the most beautiful girl leading them as the drum majorette. It was Sue, and after that, I could not get her off my mind. After they were married, they spent their first year in Logan, Utah, until Dad graduated in 1956. The day after graduation, their first child, Robert Glen, was born. After graduating, they made their home in West Jordan, Utah, and he went into the dairy business with his father. Years went by, and their family grew with the addition of 2 sons, D. Marcel and James Ross, a.k.a. Shorty. 3 daughters, Susan, Dana, Dion, and another son, D. Wayne.
As the family grew, so did the community. Dad and Mom felt it necessary to move their dairy business to a more rural area. They found a broken down little farm on the side of a beautiful mountain just north of Clifton, Idaho. A good friend, Larry Matthews, came up to help build the dairy barns. Another good friend, Larry Palmer, moved his little family from West Jordan to Clifton to help. Many changes were made in the landscape and the house. Over the time, we managed to build milk barns, loafing barns, and hay barns. After many days of hard work, we were finally ready to move the cows up from West Jordan. And then they had their miracle. Marla was born.
Dad has been faithful in his church calling, serving with the youth in the Sunday school and in several bishoprics. He served as high priest group leader and in the Logan Temple as an ordinance worker. Dad and his sons have worked together for many years to build a successful dairy business. He was a great example to his 8 children, 37 grandchildren, and 58 great-grandchildren. He taught us the value of hard work, honesty, and the importance of a strong testimony of Jesus Christ.
Dad was very charitable and always served others. He
He loved his family and he loved his many friends.
Okay, now we were going to share some memories from his children and from Larry and Renee. Larry and Renee said that one of their favorite memories is when they went with Mom and Dad on a trip to Oregon. And they stopped in a little town in Oregon called Sisters. Never heard of Sisters, Oregon. They want to go there. They stopped there for some ice cream because everyone knows how much my dad loved ice cream. Renee said, guess what he ordered? Licorice ice cream. Which was the blackest she'd ever seen. Getting ready to leave, he spoke to them, commenting on something and they all looked up and looked at his mouth and his tongue, and it was totally black. And they just all started giggling and they couldn't stop.
I'd like to share Robert's memory. He says, I remember a time we were cutting wood over in Bear Lake. On our way home, we stopped at the Immigration Campground to have a picnic. We started a fire to cook hot dogs on. It started to get dark, and it was time to go. As we were cleaning things up, Dad picked up a gallon of what he thought was water, but it turned out that it was gas. He poured it on the fire to put it out. And of course, the gas did just the opposite. We could have burned the forest down, but we didn't. He singed his eyebrows, his hair, and his arms.
Dee's memory. He says, I remember when I was a little boy, Dad used to rub his whiskers on my cheeks. Also, when Dad would wake up to do chores before we go out, he would make us hot chocolate and we would lay by the heater vents in the kitchen.
I get to do Shorty's memory. It's right here. 6 years ago, Shorty, took Dad bear hunting. Because Dad could not get around well, we took a lawn chair, and Dad sat next to a backcountry road and waited while we tracked the bears. The hounds chased a bear all around the mountain, approximately a 3-mile loop. And they knew this because the hounds had trackers on them. Then the bear ended up making a full circle and climbed up a tree that was across the little dirt road from where Dad was sitting. He sure liked that. The next day, Dad got another thrill. He watched Tucker's wife, Ashley, shoot a bear, which helped her earn her nickname quickly.
Okay, my memory. Okay, I want to explain to you why the number 21 is at the bottom of his obituary. When I was a little girl, I would say to my dad, Dad, I love you so much. You know, like we all just love our dads so much. And he would say, well, so how much is that? And being so little, I said, I love you 21 times, Dad, because I thought 21 was such a big number. And from then on, 21 was just how we relate our love for each other. And I want you to know that Dion got the last 21. Well, they were in the hospital. He leaned over to Dion and said, 21, Dion. I remember sitting at the kitchen table when I was young, and I'm sitting in front of him, and he put his head down in front of me, and everyone knows how Dad loves his hair combed. And I would just take the comb and comb his hair, and then I'd take my hands and lift up his face, and I'd kiss him right on the forehead, and I'd say, I love 21, Dad. Something else I thought of in the middle of the night, you know how we all think our best in the middle of the night. My dad always dreamed of having a cabin up in the meadow on our farm. And a few years ago, my brothers gave my dad that dream. And so with the help of the master builder, which is Stacy, and our family, my brothers built my dad the cutest little cabin on the mountain. And my dad would ride his rhino up there every day and just sit and look at the beautiful mountain that he lived on. Thank you, Stacy, and my brothers for doing that for my dad.
Dad's mom used to get damaged flour from Associated Foods to mix with feed for our cattle. They had an old pickup truck that they drove to Salt Lake every so often to get the loads. Well, one day when a friend came to visit, we felt a little artistic, and so we grabbed a can of white paint and we painted our names, we painted hearts and and peace signs and other youthful designs all over the side of the pickup. We were so creative. You know, I don't ever remember my dad reprimanding me for that. My dad was kind. Our dad was loving. And for years he continued to drive that old pickup truck, now stylishly painted, to Salt Lake to pick up his load. Our dad was my hero. I loved hearing him tell stories about his youth. One time, when he was a teenager, he and his friend were riding in the back of the pickup. And he said, "Watch this." And he held up his gun and he shot it. And down fell the power line. So he had shot the power line that ran across the road into. Another time, while towing his baler home, his pickup stalled, leaving the baler stuck over a railroad track, and he could hear down the track a train coming. Well, nobody was there to help him, so he unhooked the pickup from the baler, and with the help of adrenaline, and I'm sure a big prayer, he pushed the baler off the track before the train came. Another time, while he and his sister Lucille were out joyriding in Grandpa Glen's pickup, without Grandpa's permission, they were messing around and they drove into a ditch. The pickup got high-centered. The front wheels were in the ditch and the back wheels weren't quite touching the ground. In a panic, realizing that his dad, Grandpa Glen, would not be happy, he put Lucille behind the steering wheel. He got out in the front of the truck and he lifted it until the back wheels touched the ground and Aunt Lucille was able to drive away. Our dad was not only my hero, but as you can see by these life experiences, our dad was a superhero. I love you, Dad. 21.
I had a really hard time picking a memory of Dad. I struggled just to think of just one, and then I realized how lucky I was that I had so many good memories of my dad. When I was little, he would let me drive him to Swan. I was young enough, I don't know how old I was. I couldn't reach the brake or the gas pedal, so he'd let me sit next to him, and I'd steer the whole way to and from Swan. I loved that so much, just me and Dad. These last few years, I've had the opportunity to take him for drives, just me and my dad. I love to hear him talk, tell me the same story over and over again. He always said something that I needed to hear. I've been lucky enough the last 15 years to go to Stanley with Dad and Mom. So many memories I have that I will cherish forever. Dad loves Stanley, and because of Dad, Stanley has become such a special place for Stacy, my kids, and I. Stanley will always be our place with Grandpa. Dad hasn't been able to go the last few years with us, and there's an empty place when we're there. But each year we're there, my kids always remember something special about Grandpa. I think Stacy's favorite and Dad's is Yellow Belly Lake. Dad wanted to go see it when we were up there one year, and if you don't, you need to look that up on the map. That was quite a ride. And I'm pretty sure that Stacy is probably the only person I know that could actually get a truck up to that lake. Dad laughed the whole way up and back, and I'm sure he's laughing right now. My dad to me has been, since I was young enough to remember, a giant of a man. He is my first love, the strongest man and smartest man I know. He protected me, and I knew he loved me no matter what. And I was a stinker, and he still loved me. He always told me I was tough, but Dad, you're wrong. I have learned these last couple weeks that I am not. I am so grateful for my dad. I'm so glad I tried to answer the phone every time he called. And I'm telling you, he would call, and if he didn't answer, he would call again, and then he would call again, and he would call again, and he would call again. And then when you finally answered, you thought something was wrong, he'd say, "Hey, Mom, get on your phone and tell me what the weather's going to be like today." And I'd be like, And then we'd talk for a few minutes, and he'd say to me, "I can't hear you. I just called to tell you I love you." Then he would hang up, and I'm going to miss those annoying phone calls. And Dad, I can't hear you right now either. But I want you to know that I love you, and I'm sure you miss you.
Sorry. I get to read Wayne's, and it's so sweet. Wayne's memory of Dad. He says, memories for Dad for me are a little different than, let me start again, please. Memories of Dad for me are a little different than they would be for most people. There's not really one or two that jump out at me. I'm sure I had great memories with my dad. Like a trip to Nauvoo with just our wives early in our marriage, rabbit hunting with the scouts when he was the priest corps advisor, trips to Salt Lake to work with flour and sort it for resale. And there are many more things that would come to me as far as experiences go. But as I reflect on my relationship with my dad, I find it is more profound than just remembering good times and bad. I was fortunate to have Dad as a big part of my everyday life. He raised me, coached me, taught me, worked with me, counseled me, created a career for me, gave me the best home in the world to raise my family. I see his influence on me appear in the way I act, the way I talk, the way I think, the way I grunt and sigh when I get out of bed in the morning or out of my couch. My memory of him will not be forgotten because he is embedded in my every mannerism. Now, I'm not saying that I'm exactly like Marcel. I fall way short of the man, but I can say I see him often in my own personalities, and those things I see are my best qualities. I love you, Dad. Thank you for my life.
Hey, this is my memory. I have so many great memories of my dad, like everybody does. But this is a fun one, so hopefully it'll make you smile a little bit. Because I was the youngest of 8 children, and our large family lived in a very small farmhouse. I didn't have my own bed for the first 5 to 8 years of my life. So I slept.
She slept longer than she was 18.
That is the truth. And I loved every minute of it.
And she was afraid of Dad's big toe for some reason.
That was not. I gotta box them out. Okay. So I slept on the couch or between my mom and dad. And I didn't mind the situation, and you know what? I don't think my parents minded it either. At least I didn't think so. I remember sniggling with my dad and playing I Spy before falling asleep. All you kids, you played I Spy before, right? One time, he said he spied something with one huge eye. This startled my little girl self, and I was a little bit scared as I searched the room for something with one huge eye. Dad let me think about it for a while, and then finally he told me that it was Mom's dresser, and the mirror on the dresser was the huge eye. I thought my dad was the cleverest dad around after that game of I Spy. Dad loved the little things in life, and it's because of him that I also love black licorice, ice cream. We probably need to say ice cream about 5 times in this. A good foot rub, peanut M&Ms, warm hot pudding, chocolate pudding, on top ice cream, trees, the movie To Kill a Mockingbird, nicknames, gardening, black pepper, See's chocolates, children, the smell of manure, Chaparrama, Yellowstone, the Andy Griffith Show, hot dog roasts, and even though I've never been there, Stanley, Idaho, and its beautiful mountains. I love you, Pop. We all love you.
We want to thank you for sacrificing so much for our benefit. It has not gone unnoticed.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. I'm not sure I'm the right one to do this. I feel like Jenny would be much better introducing this segment than I am. Yes, yeah, you would. Anyway, so Grandpa had nicknames for everybody. The nicknames, I know, for me, it holds a very important significance in my heart, but I believe it does for everybody as well. Most of the time, when we would get our nicknames, it was something that we did while Grandpa was there. And it's kind of something, it would be a memory that we would hold on to with Grandpa from then on. For example, I'll share, we were told to share a story and the nicknames. I'll start off by telling Chuck's nickname and a little story about her nickname. Anyway, when Chuck was young, she was all over the place. She was off the walls, ran all over the place, and would always do cartwheels. Anyway, sorry, Chuck. Anyway, one time, Chuck did a cartwheel in front of Grandpa, and midway through the cartwheel, accidentally let something go, so let something slip. My little wife likes to call them fluffs. Anyway, from then on, Grandpa would always say, "Hey, up, Chuck. Come show me your fart wheel." My dad, his nickname has a little bit more significance, but he doesn't know anything about it. His nickname is the GOAT. Many of you know what that acronym stands for, but my dad doesn't, so don't tell him, please. My mom's nickname is Oreo. When she'd walk in to see Grandpa every day, he'd say the same thing. "Hey, Oreo, come rub my feet." Tony, her nickname was Perk. Mandy, we all know that she's a dandy. That's all I have to say about that. We all know Chuck's, and now that will be embedded in your mind forever. And the last nickname in our family is mine, which is Wile E. Coyote. I have no idea why he gave me that nickname, and I don't know where it came from, but he told me he would catch me outside howling at the moon at midnight every night. I don't remember doing that, but I have been known to sleepwalk and maybe saw something I didn't. One of the special memories that I have of my grandpa was, most people in here know that I considered myself a football player for a while. And, you know, Grandpa would show up to games that I had no idea he even knew about. I'd come walking out and there he'd be. But I'd go back to the farm. I loved spending time at the farm and around the cows and around my uncles. And when I'd go back to the farm, I'd always see Grandpa and he'd say, "You know, Wiley, you are not as strong as you think you are. Football players aren't as strong as they think they are." And then he'd come over to me and he'd start punching me. And he'd always punch me right here, in this area here. You know, he'd never go with the face. But he'd always punch me. Finally, one day I said to myself, I'm going to punch him back. I'm going to show him how tough football players really are. So he walked over to me and he said, "Wiley, football players aren't as tough as they think they are." And then he started punching me, always with a big smile and a big grin and laughing the entire time, right? Anyway, I gave him a punch right back. To my astonishment, he returned the favor twofold. And then it just kept going. And the next thing I know, we stopped and it was all over with. And he looked at me and he said, "See, Wiley, I told you, football players aren't quite as strong as you think they are." Anyway, I love my grandpa very much, and what an opportunity to stand here and be able to share some experiences with you guys. And yeah, amen.
think I'm the best one for this job either. I think Glen should have done this. I'm just going to stand up here and ugly cry the whole time. And my husband agrees it's not a pretty sight. I'll try not to. So a couple memories I have of Grandpa. Glen helped me remember one. We were driving somewhere in the car with Grandpa. And I don't remember who all was in the car with us, but Glen had this little handheld game thing that was 20 questions game. And this thing was pretty good at guessing what you were thinking about. So we had Grandpa do it on this drive, and he somehow could manipulate every answer to be a yes or a sometimes answer. And we were all so confused. And the device would ask him things like, is what you're thinking of smaller than a loaf of bread? And he's like, yeah, sometimes. And then it would ask, is it bigger than a house? He's like, yeah, sometimes. And then he would ask, is this thing found indoors? Yeah, sometimes. And is it found outside? Oh yeah, it's found outside. And is it alive? Yeah, till it dies. And then it would ask, our favorite part was when it asked, does it move? And Grandpa said, when the wind blows. And we all were laughing so hard and we were so confused. And after 20 questions, the game gave up, and so did we. So we asked him what it was, and he said, well, it's a tree. Of course it is, yes it is. And another more recent memory I have of Grandpa is when my oldest she was like 6 or 7 months old, and I wanted to take her to the Dayton 4th of July celebration, and I was going to go have a little sleepover at my mom's, but she got sick, and so I called Grandma up and asked her if we could come have a sleepover there, and of course she said yes. And so I came downstairs to say goodnight, and it was probably after 10 o'clock, it was late to me, and Grandpa goes, let's watch a movie. I'm, Grandpa, it's so late, it's like 10 o'clock. And he's like, yeah, let's watch a movie. So, okay. So he picked Friendly Persuasions. Well, this is my favorite movie, this is so funny. So we're sitting there watching it, and I'm just struggling to stay awake. And I'm nodding off, and I would be completely asleep, and then Grandpa would wake me up because he would just start laughing so hard. And I just thought it was funny that this 28-year-old, and I was a new mom, but still I was 28 and I couldn't stay awake long enough to watch a movie with my 80-year-old grandpa. And he, let's see, nicknames. So my oldest sister, Amy's nickname was Buckles, and Amber's nickname was Bam Bam, and she just told me why. She said that Grandpa said that when she was little she would fall down all the time because she was really clumsy, and she would fall down and go Bam Bam. And so that's how she got her nickname. And that one stuck because we all call her Bam Bam, and she's still really clumsy. My nickname is Jen the Hen. Glen's nickname is Bucka, and that's because that's how he would pronounce Grandpa when he was little. And I think that's cow in Spanish. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. So it's kind of a fitting nickname for Glen. And Corby, when Corby was little, he was kind of a turd, if any of you remember that. And whenever Grandpa would say hi to him, he'd just go, ugh. And so Grandpa for a while called him anytime he would see him. But then his nickname as he got older evolved into a loud, hey Corbin, every time he walked into the door. And I love that Grandpa was always so happy to see you whenever you walked in. Even if you could barely stay awake, he was just so excited that you were there. And he was always happy in general, and I'm really grateful for that example.
So one of my favorite memories of Grandpa is a more recent one. And my favorite thing would be when I'd see his name on the caller ID when he was calling me. And every Valentine's Day he would call and he'd say, Pocahontas, can you keep secret? And I'd say, yeah, what, Grandpa? Don't tell Grandma this, but you're my favorite Valentine. And little did he know that we all had social media, so we all knew he was calling all the granddaughters and telling us that we were his favorite Valentine. But I loved how Grandpa would make us all feel special, and I'm really going to miss those phone calls.
All right, so before I start, I just want to let everybody know how proud I am to be part of this family. the Becksteads, I think we're the best. And I just think that everybody should know here that there's no love worth sharing than the love that lets us share on you. For our nicknames, unfortunately, I wish I could say them like Grandpa would say them, but it'd be about 5 decibels too high, and it wouldn't be give justice for the names like he would enunciate them for us. So my dad was Monty, my mom was Sue, or her personal favorite, Flanagan. In every family, one of the grandkids would always have, there'd be one grandkid in every family that kind of got the short end of the stick, and Tiffany was Silly Sausage, Lollipop, and of course, I wish I could yell it, but mine was Tie Guy, and I can just imagine every time walking into his room or his house, and and then of course Bracken was Jay Bracken. So for my story, again, just like Tori had said, Grandpa just he had an amazing way of letting everybody know that you were special. And he was really, really good at that when you came into the family. And so for my story, we were at the temple, and one of the grandsons was getting married, and I can't remember which grandson it was. At the very end of the service, everybody's walking around the temple, shaking hands, hugging. There's tears, joy, everything. And the new bride, she gets over to my grandpa, and I'll just say maybe he was in a deep prayer with his head bowed and his eyes closed. And she kind of pokes him, and he looks up at her, and with his joyful yell, he says, "Boy, you're an angel." And of course, my grandma gives him a nice subtle jab to the right side. Again, I just want everybody to know how proud I am of this family. And much love. There's no love like our last name.
So the nicknames that Grandpa gave us, Mom was Brownie, I was Bub, Kate was Rolly, Whitney was Yeller. I think she got that because when she was young, she would always squeal and yell, no matter where we were. And Sarah was Sella. Those nicknames are always so special to us. I talked to my siblings, and a couple memories that we had of Grandpa was he loved to hear the piano. He loved it when Whitney and Sarah played the piano, and so every time he would see him, he would tell them to play me a hurtin' tune. We had a lot of cookouts with Grandpa and Grandma, and they would come over to the house, and every time, never failed, Grandpa would sit down in the chair by the window, or he would go out on the deck, and he would say, "Now what you need to do is on the hillside there, you need to fence it, and you need to fill it full of elk." And then we could come and sit and watch the elk. Every time we would say that. And on those cookouts, we'd have a lot of shrimp and halibut. And it didn't matter if it was deep fried shrimp or if it was mom's shrimp salad. Grandpa loved it. He would eat it like candy, like it was going out of style. I remember going on rides with Grandpa and getting ice cream with him. He loved his ice cream. Grandpa was always happy. He was always upbeat, and he always had a joke. Whenever we saw him, there was a new joke. Grandpa was always supportive of us. He didn't expect us to be perfect, but he wanted us to do our best. And he always encouraged us to do our best, and I'm thankful for that. Grandpa, I don't think Grandpa was a very mushy guy, but you always knew that Grandpa loved you. He didn't have to say it. You could tell by the way he lived his life. And we're thankful for that. And we love you, Grandpa.
Alrighty,
Devin's nickname from Grandpa is Fish Lips because she used to pull this face when she was little. One of Fish Lips' favorite memories of Grandpa were all of his phone calls, just to call her and tell her he loved her, or order ice cream or a meat burrito from Big J's. She has kept all his voicemails and will cherish them forever. Grandpa always wanted to make sure you knew he loved you. He was a very special grandpa, and we were so lucky to have a grandpa like him. Brittany's nickname from Grandpa is Grasshopper. One of Grasshopper's favorite memories of Grandpa is actually how she got her nickname. Grandpa always asked to see her new clogging dances, and as soon as the dance was over, he would say, "Look, she jumps around, just like a grasshopper." Grandpa always made people feel loved and like they were the most important person in the room. Everyone knows that watching a 10-year-old clog can be the most boring thing, but Grandpa always made Grasshopper feel like he was watching the best dance he had ever seen. I didn't have a nickname from Grandpa. He always told me that just Kenzie was good enough. I was lucky enough to relive my favorite memory of Grandpa for multiple summers in a row. Stanley is Grandpa's favorite place, which is also my favorite place. Each year my dad, also known as Master Builder, would unload the rhino first thing so I could take Grandpa up Elk Mountain. For those of you who don't know, Elk Mountain is a view of McGowan Peak and Stanley Lake, which were Grandpa's favorite. Grandpa and I spent many hours riding up Elk Mountain each summer. I was always the first he would go up with before he'd go with anyone else. Grandpa and I actually cut down the tree for his Kenzie cane on one of our many Elk Mountain rides. At the top of Elk Mountain, Grandpa would always say, "It's a pity it's so pretty, but the only thing prettier than these trees and these mountains and these lakes is my Kenzie." And before he would head back to camp, he would grab me and say, "Let's have our Kenzie and Grandpa hug in our place." A greeting with Grandpa and Jack sounded like this. "I'm glad you're back, Handsome Jack." "I'm glad you're back too, Grandpa." Jack's nickname from Grandpa is Handsome Jack. Handsome Jack's favorite memory of Grandpa includes all of the days of planting trees with him. They would spend hours on the mountain digging the perfect hole that Grandpa would have to inspect. Once the tree was planted, he would tell some funny story that he had or give some good wisdom. On top of all the tree planting with Handsome Jack, Grandpa would also sit on his tractor and pull dead trees out in the open so that Handsome Jack could cut them up for him. These are memories that Handsome Jack will always hold close to his heart. The Moser family adores Grandpa. Our family will forever remember Grandpa as we continue to eat ice cream in the big chairs at Redfish Lake. Our family will always remember him sitting at the end of our table Christmas Eve. My mom, would always make her homemade shrimp, and Master Builder would fry it to perfection. Master Builder would place the shrimp cake directly in front of Grandpa so he could eat as many as he could without Grandma noticing. The Moser family is grateful for such an amazing Grandpa and for the knowledge that we will laugh with him again. And as Grandpa would say, what should we do? Well, spit in his shoe and blame it on you.
I'm not sure anybody in my family really knows why they got their nicknames, but our nickname for our family was, my dad was JW, my mom was Jane Girl, Caitlin was Hey You, Riley is the only one we know why her name is Ladybug, and that's because when she was a little girl, my mom dressed her as a ladybug for Halloween, and ever since then she was Ladybug. Ryan was Frankie, Laney was Peanut Head, Aaron was Aaron Slick, and I was Boy Boy. In preparation for this, I asked all my siblings for a little memory they could share, and so I'll just read those to you guys. Caitlin remembers working with Grandpa in the yard, and especially in the garden. Grandpa used to have her pick up apples and garbage from all around the farm. It was hard work, but he always made sure she got some ice cream after it was over. Caitlin also remembers Grandpa telling her that he used to watch us kids get off the bus and walk up our lane to our house. And as we walk up the lane, I guess he'd tell Caitlin that he'd see her just talking to me. And as we were walking up, I just have my head lowered and just sprinting up the hill trying to ignore Caitlin. I remember getting home from school, and somehow Grandpa would always know that I was there. I'd just be getting ready to lie down and relax when inevitably I'd hear the rhino come chugging up the lane. I'd complain to my mom and roll my eyes, but while working with Grandpa, we'd always end up laughing, joking, and having a great time. We planted countless trees, trimmed hundreds of branches, and watered every flower, bush, and sapling on the farm. Riley remembers just spending lots of time with Grandpa. Riley would take Grandpa on drives and hear all the stories, or the two of them would sit up in the cabin and enjoy the mountain Grandpa loved so much. Riley says Grandpa always had a way to make you feel special and loved. Ryan remembers hanging out with all of his cousins, and Grandpa never wanted to miss an opportunity to get free labor, would kidnap them all and work around the farm. He remembers riding around on the wheel well of the old blue tractor specifically. Lainey, like Caitlin, remembers picking up garbage around the farm all the time. She remembers how Grandpa would always tell her how pretty and hardworking she was. Erin remembers going into Grandpa's house and Grandpa always yelling, "Erin Slick," whenever she would enter the living room. Our Grandpa was a man who was hard to not make memories with. Every day with him was special, and whenever you were with him, he always had either a joke or a story or just something to tell you that you always remember. And our family just wants to let him know that we love him and miss him.
Alright. So the nicknames in our family are as follows. My mom is Skippy, and that one's pretty easy to imagine why. If you know my mom at all, and you can imagine her as a little girl skipping around the farm feeding the cows, that's probably why she's Skippy. My dad's nickname, it was kind of just a voice influx. He would always walk in and my grandpa would go, "Dave." That's Dave. My nickname is Osty Boy. And I always loved getting to Grandpa's house, and going to the door, and I'd hear Grandma say, "Come in." And then I'd walk up the hall and poke my eyes out and wait for Grandpa to look at me and he'd say, "There's my Osty Boy." Tate's nickname, they had a few nicknames. He was Tater Bug, Tater Man, and Tate Lamb Straight. Abby's nickname is Peaches. When she was a baby, she had some huge cheeks. It looked like there was a peach in each cheek, so that's why she was Peaches. Tess is Little Skippy. That one's also pretty easy. If you look at Tess and then you look at my mom, she's Little Skippy. Cash, he was Big Bucks, but Cash would always walk in and Grandpa would say, "Why do they call you Big Bucks if you look like a copper penny?" And Corinne's nickname is Mustard Seed. And I don't know where that one is. Probably because she grows really fast. You're a fast grower. So memories that we share with Grandpa are going to Chuckarama. We'd always come up to Logan, or they'd come down to Ogden and take us out for Chuckarama. And then a memory that Cash shared with us last night that I didn't know about was a few years back, we came to visit the farm, and Cash really had to go to the bathroom. But Grandpa was in there, and he was taking a while with his business. And so Cash would knock, and Grandpa would say, just a minute, and then Cash would leave, and he'd knock again. And after a few times of that, he came up and Cash just stuck his toes under the door, and he wiggled his toes around and said, "Grandpa, when you see my toes, it means I have to go to the bathroom." And then from then on, every time Grandpa had to go to the bathroom and somebody else was in there, he'd stick his toes under the door and wiggle around. I speak for me and my whole family when I say that we love and we're going to miss Grandpa.
I believe I've had a tear in my eye ever since those beautiful little girls sang Gibs of the Boat Street. And now to have Roxanne sing what is one of my favorite songs before I have an opportunity to speak is not going to make this any easier. I consider it a distinct honor to be asked to say a few words that my best friends view. To talk about a man that I think so much of and that has been so good to me, that I owe so much to. I don't know where to start to talk about the goodness of Marcel. I don't remember first meeting Marcel and Sue. I don't know if I was 12, maybe 14, I don't know. Marcel was an artificial inseminator at that time, and he bred our cows for my dad and for my uncle. They lived on the southwest side of the Salt Lake Valley, and we lived on the east side, quite a ways apart. And when I graduated from high school, I took over the cows, and Marcel continued to breed them for me. So we saw each other quite often. And I believe that for he and Sue, it was kind of a date night. After they had milked their cows and done their chores for the evening, they would get away from those pesky boys and come on up and stop at the iceberg, get an ice cream shake, and then come and visit with the Smarts. And yes, we did get the cow bread, but most of the time was spent just visiting. Now, when Susan and Thayne came along, they got to come with Marcel and Sue. Pretty spoiled, I would say. But you know, they were the cutest little girls that you could ever see. About 8 tall and really smart too. I would call out to their house to line up a visit. And usually one of them answered the phone, and I would ask to speak to their mother. And I would hear in the background, Wayne Sparks on the phone. I thought, this is pretty smart for 2 little girls. I didn't tell them who I was. And anyhow, we had a close relationship, and this went on for some time. Sue would provide my mom with flour so she could bake her bread, and we provided some fruit and vegetables. Usually our garden was good for 2 weeks after theirs had frozen out. And so then I'd be doggone, all of a sudden, they decided to move to Idaho. And we really missed them. But sometime later, I received a call from Marcel. He said, the Roy Taylor farm is up for sale. You need to come and look at it. So I did, and I liked it. And so then I thought, I better take up the girl that I thought was, I hoped would soon be my wife, to see if a downtown city girl could tolerate living in backwater Clifton. So I brought Carolyn up to see it, and of course I took her to meet Marcel and Sue. At that time, Marla was in a diaper, and Carolyn really enjoyed really enjoyed the family. She thought they were pretty nice people and everything. But I have to confess that she did think they were a little strange. You know, we would sit there visiting there in the house, and the phone would ring, and one of them would get up and run and go get it and answer the phone. And then a few minutes later, the phone would ring, and everybody just sat there. They didn't do anything. And you know, this went on all the time that we were sitting there. After we left, I had to explain to that city girl what living in the sticks was like. She had never dealt with a party line that had two different rings. But Carolyn came to love Marcel and Sue and their family just as much as I do. All the Becksteads have been so helpful to us. When we moved up here, about all the equipment that we had was an 8N Ford tractor. Now, for those of you who are not too acquainted with farm machinery, 8N tractor is about like a large four-wheeler with larger back tires. And so Marcel provided us with tractors and manure spreaders, and cattle trailers, and anything else he had that we needed until we were able to get our own. But Marcel was not just good to us. He was good to everybody. That was a way of life for Marcel and Sue. Marcel was not one to wear his religion on his sleeve for everyone to see, but his religion was in his heart. He didn't preach so much the golden rule. He lived the golden rule. And his example is so much for everybody on how we should live. I've had the privilege of working and serving with nearly all of the sons and daughters, and sons-in-laws and daughters-in-laws in various areas, in church and in school and in different ways. And each one of those experiences has been a choice experience for me. Now, Marla, you ran off to a faraway country, but I've heard good things about what you've done down there with your family. And you should remember that I was the designated driver on several occasions when you were a young woman. You know, when these young women go out, somebody needs to stay sober. Because young women, and especially their leaders, can get pretty rowdy. We have a lot of fun. I appreciate the relationships I've had with all of you and the encouragement that you have been to me. I've mentioned some of the temporal things, some of the blessings that your father provided me in that respect. But I haven't talked about the spiritual side. The side that is really more important to me. When Marcel was called to be bishop of our board, he asked that I would be able to serve as his executive secretary. Now, at that time, I was not completely inactive. I just felt like attending sacrament meeting once a week was plenty of church for anybody. With that call, I was brought into complete activity, and I am thankful for that. I will be forever thankful to Marcel for asking for my service. I'm really going to miss Marcel. So are all of you. Like everybody else, some others have mentioned, I am going to miss going with Marcel and Sue to Chaparrama every now and again. I'm going to miss visiting with Marcel and Sue and hearing a joke or two. We have given blessings together. We have gone and visited the sick together. We have gone to the temple together. We felt like we came close to getting kicked out of the Idaho Falls temple one day. You see, we hadn't been to the Idaho Falls temple before. When we asked where this was and where that was and whatever else we should be doing, the workers there gave us the feeling that maybe they thought that we had slipped in without a recommend. We had a lot of fun together. We've been able to enjoy many good times. Marcel and Sue are a lot of fun. We're all going to miss that. But we're not going to miss the legacy that Marcel has left, because that is with us. As I look out over those here today, sons and daughters, grandsons and granddaughters, great-grandsons and great-granddaughters, and generations to come. I see hard workers striving to live good lives. I see missionaries who have served. I see missionaries who are serving. And I see missionaries who will serve in the future. All with a legacy. You should be very pleased. Let us celebrate the life just lost. I am sure Marcel is. He's meeting with family members long since seen. Friends that he has missed. Nice guy, and others. And he is hearing what they are saying. I believe my mother and father are there to meet him. They thought as much of Marcel and you, Sue, as I do. They loved him very much. Let us carry on. I buried my testimony that Heavenly Father lives, that Jesus Christ is his Son. And I would like to say this in his holy name. Amen.
It's been a wonderful service. So thankful for all those who are a part of it in any way. Grateful for these beautiful flowers, for all those that have provided that service to the Beckstead family. Thank you. I will have just a couple of remarks, and we'll move to a close of this wonderful service. I'd like to begin by reminding us of a verse of Scripture that fills me with tremendous hope, especially in these moments. Now there is a death, which is called a temporal death, and the death of Christ shall loose the bands of this temporal death, that all shall be raised from this temporal death. The spirit and the body shall be reunited again in its perfect form. Both limb and joint shall be restored to its proper frame. Now this restoration shall come to all. The spirits uniting their bodies, never to be divided, thus the whole becoming spiritual and immortal. Jesus Christ built a bridge to overcome physical death, of which death we mourn with Marcel's passing and with his family today. But as we consider his faith in, his love of, and the obedience to the gospel and atonement of Jesus Christ, we are filled with immeasurable hope. On October 17, 1982, Bishop D. Marcel Beckstead spoke at the dedicatory meeting for this very building. In fact, once the welcome and the opening prayer was said, the program lists Bishop Beckstead as the very first speaker from this pulpit setting. And though Mother Sue was willing to have the service held somewhere else, she did hope we could hold it here in this chapel. To me, it is a tender mercy from heaven that we are allowed to honor Marcel here. Some 38 years after dedication, we pay tribute in this building to this builder of men and women. I am grateful my grandpa Gideon, Curtis Cox, James Boyce, Wayne Smart, and Dale Rouse served with Bishop Beckstead in his bishopric. I know for certain their united service has blessed all of our families in numerous ways, even to this day. Marcel led with faith, and he was a builder of faith. Among Marcel's numerous gifts, oft-cited is his humor. There was a good deal of banter originating between my grandpa and Marcel about the supreme dairy breed. In my young and sheltered world, I had no idea that there was anything else besides black and white. The banter spilled over between Jeff and Dee, and as occasion would permit, Marcel, or Shorty, or Dee, or Robert would get their licks into us to my brothers and I, about the superiority of the Jersey. That humor kept going very strong to the end. Just 2 weeks ago, I spoke to Marcel on the phone the day after he suffered his stroke. I told him, as Sue held the phone up to his ear, that I was sorry to hear about his tough night. I smiled widely as he shot back quickly, saying, "I just got lazy is all." And with many family members, it has been fun to hear of the humor which translated a given name into an endearing nickname. We've heard many of those: Skippy, Big Bucks, Go-Go, Peanut Head. The list goes on and on. And we'd be remiss if we didn't note how proud Grandpa was of Frankie, who's joining us from Michigan, of Mallard from Missouri, and of Taterbutt from Missouri. Marcel applied humor to create relationships and memories that are too numerous to count, but too significant to ever forget. Marcel was really a builder with love. I consider the vision that he and Sue used to create their legacy, with a small refrigerated cooler and a room full of meat saws, grinders, and knives. Using these simple physical tools, they have woven a strong spiritual tapestry of prudence, preparation, and heeding prophetic counsel to lay up in store. So many have been blessed by this one thing. Marcel was a builder with obedience. I have a favorite poem that I believe describes Marcel Beckstead's life. It is most instructive to me because it shines light not only on what he built, but why he's built these bridges with love, obedience, and faith in Jesus Christ. An old man going a lone trailway came at the evening, cold and gray, to a chasm vast and deep and wide, through which was flowing a sullen tide. The old man crossed in the twilight dim. The sullen stream had no fear for him, but he turned when safe on the other side and built a bridge to span the tide. "Old man," said a fellow pilgrim near, "you are wasting your strength with building here. Your journey will end with the ending day. You will never again pass this way. You've crossed the chasm deep and wide. Why build this bridge at evening tide?" The builder lifted his old gray head. "Good friend, in the path I have come," he said, "there followeth after me today a youth whose feet must pass this way. This chasm that has been not to me, to that fair-haired youth may a pitfall be. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friend, I'm building the bridge for him." Now, with a nod toward who I've discovered is the master builder, Stacy, I would invite us to consider that of all that we build in life, the most important is the faith we build in Jesus Christ, the master builder. His bridge spans the chasm of physical death, but also the gulf of misery caused by spiritual death is bridged by the Savior. For whosoever will may lay hold upon the word of God and lead the man of Christ in a straight and narrow course across the everlasting gulf of misery and land their souls, yea, their immortal souls, at the right hand of God in the kingdom of heaven. Whether you are fair-haired, no-haired, or gray-haired, if you call Marcel Beckstead Dad, Grandpa, Great-Grandpa, know that within you is the divine capacity to be a builder, using love, obedience, and faith in Jesus Christ as your tools. Marcel has built these bridges that connect you to him and to the master builder. I am confident Marcel will continue in his effort to build and connect his family eternally. Ultimately, the bridges that Christ provides unite us eternally. A prophet has taught that, quote, what matters most is what lasts the longest. Our families are for eternity. Funerals are hard, and they're also hopeful. They are hard because we reflect on the life so recently passed, but they are also hopeful as we evaluate our time here that we are allotted here on earth. They are a sacred and significant event that we can use as a hinge point in our lives to help us renew our focus on the Savior Jesus Christ. And because of Christ's atonement, Marcel Beckstead, you and I have infinite hope as we turn to him. I know that this is true. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. We'll now have a congregational hymn, number 152. God be with you till we meet again. Zoe Ruthven, a great-granddaughter, will serve as the chorister for this. Lisa Sears is the accompanist. The benediction will then be offered by Shorty Beckstead, a son. After that, we will adjourn this meeting to the Clifton Cemetery, in Clifton, Idaho Cemetery, for the dedication of the grave by Wayne Beckstead, a son. The family will then return for a compassionate service meal provided by the Oxford Ward Relief Society. Let us have the hymn.
opportunity I had to come here today and show respects to Dad and his passing. And I'd like to ask you to take him into your arms and with his parents and his siblings that passed on, his friends, and let him know that we'll watch after his wife and let him be comforted. And I'd like to ask a blessing on his wife and family, that, especially his wife, that let her know that she'll be okay and that let your spirit be with her and let her be comforted in all things. And when she has them bad days, to let you take care of her. And I'd like to ask your blessing as we go onto the cemetery, and that your spirit can be there and we'll have no problems and safety. And those who are going home can do so safely. And say the same name, let's say Jesus Christ's name.
Amen.
Thank you. Will the audience please rise?